Hi, good morning, my students. Good morning. We're off to the start of a new week. Today is April 27th, and today I'd like to talk to you about treasures that last. It's so easy to look at our world and think, wow, this place is huge. And compared to our size, the earth is huge. But compared to the rest of the universe, well, it's not so big after all. Here are some facts for you. Imagine our solar system. Now, remember, we studied that. That's the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, and the other planets and their moons. Imagine that our solar system was about the size of a quarter. That would make the Earth a microscopic speck of dust. The next nearest star, called Proxima Centauri, would be another quarter. So that's 2 soccer fields away. If you were to compare our solar system to the entire Milky Way galaxy, it would be like putting a quarter on the United States. And that's just one galaxy. Scientists think that there are billions and billions of other galaxies in the universe. When you think about that perspective, the Earth, it's really microscopic. That means very, very small. And all those things that we want, the newest gadget, the newest pair of shoes, the newest phone, the trendiest clothes, that all seems unimportant. That's because those things are really small when you compare to how big and vast the universe is. Do you know our treasures just don't last? There are some things that do last, though, that are important, things that you can think about each day. Remember those virtues that we learn at SCA? Can you remember some of those for Miss Gaylord? Compassion, perseverance, okay, responsibility, respect, temperance, which means your self-control, okay, kindness. Those things can last. So the next time you find yourself worrying about, do I have this or do I have that, or some kind of earthly treasure, remember how small the earth is and the things on the earth, and think about how big these other things should be in our life, things that we do that are good for us. Okay? All right. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope that you are ready to begin this next week of learning. Okay. I hope that you have done very hard to keep up with what we're doing. I know some of you have just been doing it's just such a good job. Thank you for always turning in everything. I want to give a shout out to a couple, Jamar, Shamad, Harper, Sasha. There's several of you that have turned in, I think, everything. Okay. Thank you for being on top of things. There's a few more I'll name each day, but I want you to pat yourself on the back. And I want to thank you for turning in everything. So I don't have to go behind you and say, this is missing. Where is this? Alea's been doing a great job, and a few others I'll name later. Okay. If you have your Riggs journal, go ahead and get that out. We're going to be getting our last set of words this week. Okay. And this will be today, since it's Monday, will be the first 6 words. Now, remember, you can't turn in the form for Riggs until you get Monday's words, Tuesday's words, and Wednesday's words. Once you have all of them, then you can turn in the document that lets me know that you've listened to all the videos, gotten all the words, and you can write your 3 sentences each day. Okay? All right. So I'm ready to begin with word number 1. Number 1 is thumb. Thumb. How many syllables in the word thumb? 1. Very good. Okay. Thumb starts with a 2-letter sound. Do you know what it is? Th. The TH. We underline our 2-letter sounds because they make one sound, but they're 2 letters. Th, you. Very good. Okay. U makes 4 sounds. U, oo, It's the first one, so no markings. M. Very good. M makes one sound, no markings. Does that look like thumb to you? There's a letter on the end that is silent. Do you know what it is? A B. Very good. What do we do to letters in our RIGS curriculum that are silent? We underline them twice. The word is thumb. Number 2. Okay, this word can be a verb or a noun. It's the word till. Till. How many syllables? 1. Now, I don't mean like it is 5 till 10. I mean to dig up, to till, okay? Or a till is something that can dig up, like he tills the soil. Till can be a verb or a noun. What do you think it starts with? T. Very good. T makes one sound. T has no markings. I, I, I. I has 3 sounds. I, E. Since it's the first sound, no markings. L, L, L. Very good. L has one sound, no markings. The rule is we often double L, F, or S at the end of a word. Very good. So we double the L, and it has no markings because L makes one sound. Now, the third word is going to take the noun form of till, okay, and we're going to make it plural. So this would be singular, 1 till. And how would we make the plural? 2 tills, or you could say the verb. He tills the soil. To till can be a noun or a verb. Okay. He tills the soil. We would need to add a S. Very good. All right. So this word is still one syllable. We keep the T. T makes one sound, no markings. I, I, I. I has 3 sounds. I, E. It's the first sound, no markings. L, L, L. L has no markings because L makes one sound. We often double L, F, or S at the end of a word. And then we need to add the Z. Z. Is it the S or the Z? It's the S. What are the sounds of S? S, Z. So we put a 2 because it makes the Z sound. Okay? This can be a verb here. He tills the soil. And again, the word to till means to dig up. Very good. All right. Ready to begin? Number 4. Okay. Number 4 is to reprove. Reprove. How many syllables is reprove? 2. Very good. It starts with a R. R. R makes one sound. R has no markings. Reprove. Actually is the E. Does it sound like a eh or a E? No. What do we do to letters that sound different than their normal sounds? We put a thinking cap or think to spell. Reprove. Okay, it doesn't sound like normal. Put a syllable dot because it's 2 syllables. Pr starts with a P. P makes one sound, so it has no markings. R. Good. R has one sound, no markings. Okay? Now, the next letter in reprove is an O. What are the sounds of O? Ah, O, oo, Ooh, reprove needs a 3. Very good. Sound number 3. V, v, V. Okay. V makes one sound, and then we're going to end it with a E. Okay. We end words with an E, job number 2. Okay. You can hear the V sound, so we underline that. Now, to reprove someone means to scold them. Okay. Grandma reproved me because I was outside after dark. Scolded, fussed at, reprove. Okay. The next word is mixture. How many syllables in mixture? 2. Very good. Okay. What is a mixture? What part of speech is that, you think? It's a noun. Good. A mixture is something that is put together but can be taken back apart. When you talk about science, when you combine something, if you stir it up and you can't get it back, we call that a solution. If you can take apart the pieces, like take out the apple and the raisin and the carrot or something, that is called a mixture. A mixture is a noun. It starts with a M, has one sound, so no markings. I, 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 Is it the I, or the E? It's the I, so no markings. X, x, X. X makes one sound. Mixture. We put a syllable dot here, and then we have a T. Very good. Okay, now the T there has no markings. T makes one sound. The of nurse. That means it's a U-R. The of nurse. And the job of the E is job number 5. Okay, mixture. A mixture is, again, what part of speech? A noun. Perfect. The next word can be a noun or a verb. To nail can be a verb. I'm going to nail it in place, or a nail on the wall is a noun. They start with n, N. N has one sound, no markings. A, nail. What A is it? A, 2-letter A that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with I. Nail. L has no markings because L makes one sound. That is a 1-syllable word, nail. Okay, let's look at our words again. Thumb, repeat after me. Thumb. Till, tills. Reprove or reprove. Mixture, nail. Several of these words can be 2 different parts of speech, okay? And I don't see any adjectives here. I see a lot of nouns. What are some of the words that could be nouns? In the back of your journal, I hope you're writing these down, okay? A thumb, okay, very good. A thumb can be a noun. A till can be a noun, okay, something that used to dig up something. You can use mixture as a noun. That is a mixture, is a noun. And a nail. Okay, a nail. There are your 4 nouns. A couple of those words can also be a verb. What words on our list can be a verb? Okay, really, thumb can be, if you thumb your way, people say, we don't often use that as a noun, but so we won't put that, but I mean as a verb. We usually use thumb as a noun. Till can be a verb, to dig up. Tills, like Jack tills the soil, can be a verb. Reprove, to scold or tell or fuss at somebody, reprove. And to nail. I nailed my picture on the wall. So you have some that can be both parts and some that are just one part. You've got your verbs and your nouns. And I have no adjectives here today. Very good. Okay, so tonight, as you write these words, make sure that you're coming up with your 3 sentences that are going to, you can choose 3 out of those 6 words. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Miss Gaylord will give you those 6 words to call out, and then you can write the ones you missed 3 times each, okay? All right, let's look at our phonogram sounds today. And this is the last week, I believe, that we'll be working on these phonograms. You have done a super job this year, especially those that were not here last year. I really want to pat you on the back because it was not easy to learn all of these in reading if you weren't here in kindergarten and first grade. And I really want to tell you that you did a great job with these. So let's say them out loud and strong this last week. Ready? What are the 4 sounds of A? A, aw. 2 sounds of C, k, s. 1 sound for D, d. 1 sound for F, f. 2 sounds G, g, j. 4 sounds O, ah, o, oo, aw. 2 sounds S, s, z. Good. 1 sound qua, qua. B, 1 sound b, b. E, 2 sounds e. H, 1 sound h, h. I, 3 sounds I, e. J, 1 sound j. K, 1 sound k. L, 1 sound l. M, 1 sound m. N, 1 sound n. P, 1 sound p. Had a little pig, put him in a pen, fed him on peach peelings. One day, my little pig, he went pop. What kind of figurative language is that? Alliteration. Very good. R, 1 sound T, 1 sound t. U, 4 sounds u, V, 1 sound v. W, 1 sound w. X, 1 sound x. What word on our list had a x? Mixture. Good. Y, 4 sounds ya, it, I, e. Z, 1 sound z. 2 letter sounds the of her, the of early, the of works, the of nurse. What word on our list had a the of nurse? What was it? Let's see. Mixture. Yes, good. The of first. Shh. Used at the beginning of a word, at the end of a syllable, but not at the beginning of most syllables after the first one, except for the ending ship. E always says E. F. A 2-letter A that we do use at the end of English words. A 2-letter A that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with I. What word on our list had a 2-letter A? Nail. Very good. Nail. Okay. Ow, oh, cow and snow. Ow, oh, ooh, Good. Aw that we do use at the end of English words. Aw that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with you. Ooh, you that we do use at the end of English words. Ooh, you that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with you. Oi that we do use at the end of English words. Oi that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with I. Oo, oh. Good. Ch, k, sh, ch, k, sh. Ng, e, a. Good. R, k, two-letter k, used after a single vowel that says a, e, I, a. Ed, d, t, past tense ending. Or, hua, oo, I, that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with I. Good job. O, the O of boat. AE that we do use at the end of English words. AE that we do not use at the end of English words. Why not? Because English words do not end with I. Good. A, four-letter A. I, three-letter I. EI, our backwards phonogram. We say EI, but we write IE unless it's after a C. Good job. N, two-letter N, used at the beginning of a base word. Two-letter F, two-letter F. Two-letter N, used both at the beginning and end of a base word. G, three-letter G. O, the O of toe. Ch, three-letter ch, used after a single vowel that says a, e, I, a. Sh, short letter sh, used at the beginning of any syllable after the first one. Sh, tall letter sh, used at the beginning of any syllable after the first one. Sh, z, used at the beginning of any syllable after the first one. O, oo, uff, off, aw, ow. One more time. O, oo, uff, off, aw, ow. You did it. Very, very good. Maybe later in the week, we'll let you say the answers without me. Remember, I told you that I was going to ask each of you to read the cards and see if you knew all the sounds by the end of the year. Maybe we can do that by the end of the week, okay? You did a great job with Riggs. Guess what I have for you today with your 4 stars? I've got some food. Your favorite foods. You get your hamburger. Good job. If you need to press pause on the video to gather your things, you may do so. Now, for math this week, Miss Gaylord has some different things for you to look at. She asked you for Monday to look at a material. When you click on the Google Classroom, you see materials. There may be math materials, reading materials, science material. Remember, there's nothing to turn in. There's no turn in button when it says material. Why? Because that's what you look at to do the work. So some of you have been printing out your material and having it with you in class. That's awesome. I know some of you have told me that. Some of you have emailed me that and told me that you have printed your material. That's perfect. And you can look along. If you have not looked at your material, you might want to pause and find it in your Google Classroom. Okay, so that you can look at the material to know what we're doing today, okay? All right, so today's lesson is on shapes and partitions, circles, other shapes that we've talked about. Do you remember what Miss Gaylord told you a shape was that has straight sides? These are all examples of them. These are called polygons. Now, we're not only going to look at polygons today. We're also going to look at some shapes that are the circle, okay? Now, when we talk about a shape, when we talk about part of a shape, what is it that we call part of something else. Okay, it's called a fraction, right? We've been talking, remember last week about the cakes we made, how to really, we were partitioning or dividing them into parts. Okay, so if we have this circle and we want to look at the parts that it's divided into, we can look at this shape. This is the first shape on your diagram, okay? The question is, do the shapes below show halves or thirds? Okay, look at this circle. How many pieces is this circle divided into? Okay, I've got one piece here and two pieces here. So is that a half or what we call a third? Okay, that's a half. This is one half. I'll show you in blue. And then the other half I'm going to leave in white. Okay, if I have two halves of a circle, I make one whole. Very good. Okay, all right, so this is my next shape. Okay, they divided it like this. Okay, how many parts does this show? This is called one half, and this is one half. So this is divided into halves. Okay. What if I take my circle and I turn it what we call this way? This is called the diameter that goes across. A circle can look like this, this, this. Okay, so if it goes like this, it's the same as if it's like this. How many parts does this circle divide into? Two. So do we call these halves or thirds? Halves. Very good. Okay. And the last shape I'll show you is this. Okay. How many parts did I divide this rectangle into? Two. Okay. So this is two parts. So this halves or thirds. This is called halves. One half, then another half. It asks you to draw one more line to partition each shape into fourths. Okay, here's my circle. If this is half, how could I make that into fourths? Okay, I've got two pieces here. I need to make it the circle divided into four pieces. How can I do that? Okay, well, I can draw a diameter straight across the middle. Now, each of those pieces will be the same. Those are now what we call fourths. We add the THS to the 4, and we call them fourths. Okay, look at shape number 2. Okay, this is my shape, how it was given. How could I make this into fourths? I've got 1, 2 parts. I need to make 4 equal parts. Okay, I could try another diameter going across this way, and now those parts should be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have fourths. Okay, on the next circle, the diameter goes across this way. I have halves. I need to make it into fourths. How can I do that? Okay, I draw a line down the center. Now I have 4 equal parts, or fourths. How can I change this into fourths? 2 ways. I can take and go down the center like this, and I can make this shape, or I could make this shape. Either way, they're all still fourths. Now, number 2, it says for you to partition each rectangle into thirds. Okay, shade the shape as indicated. Now I'm going to use this one again. I'm going to use the same rectangular shape, and I want to make what shape they're asking. It says shade the shapes as indicated. So, okay, so I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to add a couple of lines to draw it into thirds. Okay? So, if I'm going to take one part of the rectangle, 2 parts of the rectangle, and 3 parts of the rectangle. This is what I mean by thirds, dividing it into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. Now, it asked me to shade 2/3. So I'm going to shade this 1/3 and this 1/3. Now, I'm going to show you on mine how I would do that. I'm going to shade with a cross pattern here. Okay? I shaded 1 of the thirds, and then I shaded 2/3. So this is 2/3 that are shaded. Another way I can do this is I can take and I can divide it into 3 parts. And I want to shade 2 parts. So I need this part shaded and this part shaded. I could shade 2 out of 3. The second question asked for me to only shade 1/3. How many parts could I shade? I'm doing mine this time in red. If I want to shade 1/3, okay, I can shade this part, or I can put it here or here, really, but I'm just going to choose this one. If I'm going to shade 3/3, how many parts will I shade? All 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm going to shade all parts. If I'm writing it, I can do this. 1, 2, and 3/3. Okay, so it's all shaded in. Okay, very good. Okay, number 3. Partition each circle into fourths. Okay, it says then shade the shapes as indicated. So I'm going to do this here. I've got 4 shapes. Let's see if I can make it big. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. It says first partition them into fourths. So I draw lines. I make them all the same size, and they're all to be fourths. Shade the shapes as indicated. If I'm shading 1/4 or 1 out of 4, I need to shade this one. Okay? You can shade it all the way in. If I'm shading 3/4, that's the way they write it, or 3/4, how many would I shade? 3 out of 4. So here's 1, 2, 3. Looks like this. If I'm shading 4/4 or 4 out of 4, I would shade all 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I'm shading 2/4, how many would I shade? 2. Does it matter which 2 you shade? No. I just like to shade them together so I can see a representation of a half. That was number 3. If you scroll down on the document, number 4 says, partition the shape and shade the following shapes. Each rectangle or circle is one whole. Okay. All right. So we're on number 4A. The first shape is a circle, and it says partition and shade 1/2. This is what we mean by partition. Make it into parts, and then I shade a half. Either half is fine. Can you do B and C? Okay, try it. It says take the rectangle and shade 1/4, and C is take the square and shade 1/3. Okay, how would I partition the rectangle into fourths? I could do 2 ways. I could do 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to shade one of those parts. Okay, the other way could have been to do it like this. The square, I'm going to shade 3 parts. How can I divide the square into thirds? 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to shade 1 part. And this represents how much? 1/3. Okay. Number D, another circle. Partition into 2/4. Okay, so I need to take the circle, divide it into how many parts? 4, and shade 2. Does it matter which 2 you shade? No. It's best to keep them together, though, so that you can see a good representation. Okay, number E, see if you can take the rectangle and divide it into halves. Halves. Okay, you could do it a line going down or across, either way, but you need to shade 2 halves. How many would you shade? 1, 2. So you shade the whole thing. Okay, and that would be E. All right, so you try the rest of them on your own. You have F, 2/3, G, 3/3, H, 3/4, and I, we threw in there. It's very tricky. 3 halves. Okay. Go ahead and try those on your own. If you don't have this printed, you can always do this on paper. I hope that you've already got your paper out and have been copying these with Miss Gaylord so that you can learn. Okay, so I've drawn the shapes and I'm looking at F. 2/3. Okay, there's several ways you could divide this rectangle into thirds. I'm going to divide it this way. And you were to shade how many? 2. 1, 2. You could shade any of the squares, but just it's easier to look at it when they're together. Number G, same rectangle, 3/3. Okay, this time I'm going to divide it this way. Another way that I could have chosen would be to draw straight lines like this. Okay. You could choose either way. I'm going to erase that and shade in 3/3. I'm going to shade in 1, 2, and 3. All 3 should be shaded. Okay. Number H, 3/4. How many parts should I divide the circle in if it says 3/4? 4. Great job. How could I shade in 3/4? I would shade in 1, 2, and 3. Does it matter which ones you shade? No. And the last one was the trickiest. It gave me 2 squares and it said to shade in 3 halves. Okay, so what do I need to divide my shapes into? Halves. Okay, so I'm going to divide it this way and this way. 3 halves, I'd shade in 1 part, 2 parts, and 3. So really it's 1.5. Very good. Okay, number 5, last one. Split the pizza below so that Shane, Raul, and John all have an equal share. Label with each student's share. Okay, so I'm going to have my pizza here. It's going to be round. How many students do I have that need a piece of this pizza? 3. Okay. How could I take this circle and divide it into 3 parts? Could I divide it like that? No, that would only be 2 parts. Could I divide it like that? No, that'd be 4 parts. So the pieces need to be a little bit bigger if I have 3 parts. Do you know how to divide something into 3s? Okay, looks like that. Thirds. Label with each person's name. Okay, I'm going to write Shane on one, Raul on one, and John on one. They each get a piece of the pizza. What fraction of the pizza did the boys get in all? Okay, how much did each boy get? 1 part. How do we write that? 1 out of 3, which is called 1/3. 1/3. Another way to show thirds, of course, is this. Remember? 1, 2, 3. It's the same thing with the circle. 1, 2, 3 parts. Okay. Now, as you need to complete after you've looked at the worksheet, hopefully you've written down some notes or either you printed it out, and you need to make sure you complete the Google form this week. There'll also be some math homework that you need to turn in each day. Most of you have been doing a good job with that. Okay. Very nice. All right. You got your second star. What would you like to eat today? Let's see. We already had a hamburger. How about, since the boys had a piece of pizza, how about a pizza? Very good. Okay. All right. If you need to press pause on the video, you can do that. If you need to get your reading material, if you've already printed that out, go ahead and grab that. We have finished the iReady book. So this last week, we will be reviewing. In the back of our book of iReady, there were some pages that we needed to review to make sure that we were ready for 3rd grade. That's what we're going to do today, okay? Each day this week, Miss Gaylord has another skill for you to practice. Today is called using context clues. How can you, I ask you this on Thursday, how can you find the meaning of a word? Sometimes if you don't have a dictionary and you don't know the meaning of a word and you're reading, let's say, a book or a short story, how can you find the meaning of the word? Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at what we call the context clues, okay? If you're in your text, I'm on page 434, if you've printed it out. Look where it says introduction. When you see a word that you don't know, look at the other words in the sentence. They can give you clues about what the word means. Now, we've used this process in reading. I know since I've been reading the Charlotte's Web with you, some of you, sometimes I'll stop and I'll say, do you know what this word means? What does the word clue mean? When you think of the word clue, what's the first word that comes to your mind? A mystery, maybe? I'm going to solve something if I have a clue. A clue might be a lead, a way to get the answer. So what does this word context look like? Now, what word do you see inside the word context? You see a hidden word called a root word. Okay, I see the word text. Now, you use that word often. We talk about that word. Somebody might say, text me the answer. Send me a text and I can read it. What's a text? A text is anything you can read. The reason why we call them a text on our phones is because you can read it without having to listen to the phone. You say, send me a text. So the word context means something to do with reading. Okay, that you can read. It could be a magazine, a book, a short story. Text is written words. So a context clue is going to be a way to help you solve the meaning of a word. Does that make sense? All right. So it says one way to do that is to look at the words around the words. Sometimes it says other words in a sentence tell the definition or meaning of a word. Let's look at the example. The tops of trees in rainforests form a canopy or covering of leaves. What word in that sentence is what we call unfamiliar? You don't know what it means. Okay. Canopy. Canopy. Now, you people don't use the word canopy as much anymore. When I was your age, I had what we call a canopy bed. My sister and I shared a room and we had a canopy bed. They don't really I haven't seen these in little girls' rooms anymore. But if this was my bed, okay, and this is where I slept, a canopy was the top. There was a top covering. Your moms or grandmas might have had a canopy bed when they were little. This was made out of fabric. And so I couldn't see like the light fixture or the fan in the top of the room because I had a canopy over my bed. That was popular way back when, a canopy bed. Okay, so if you don't know what the meaning of canopy is, you didn't know that. You have never heard of a canopy bed. Okay, but you just look at that sentence and it says the tops of trees in a rainforest form a canopy. Okay, so you think of a rainforest and the trees are very what? Tall. Okay, they're tall. They're trees, tall. And so it tells you here it's a covering of leaves and a tall tree. Where are the leaves? Okay, they're up here. They're at the top. So can you figure out what that word canopy means? The tops of trees in the rainforest form a canopy or covering of leaves. They put a comma there and they said, or covering of leaves. That's called a definition. And you can figure out, just like Miss Gaylord had a top on her bed, a canopy, the top to the canopy of the leaves are the top part of the leaves. Let's look at another example. Sometimes other words in a sentence give you an example that helps explain what the word means. This time it didn't give a definition, it gave you an example. The forest canopy is like a really big sun hat. Okay, so again, in a forest where you have a lot of trees, the canopy is like a really big sun hat. Where do you wear a hat? Where do you wear a hat? Okay. You wear a hat. A really big sun hat would be on the top of your head. So when it says the forest canopy is like a really big sun hat, you can tell that it's on the top. There's two ways you just figured out the meaning of canopy. You looked for a definition after the word, like a covering of leaves, or you looked at the words around it, a really big hat. Can you help me figure out the meaning of some of these words? Let's look at number one. If you've printed out the paper, that's going to be awesome. You can write on it. If not, I suggest you grab a piece of paper and take some notes. Number one, look at the underlined word in each sentence. Circle the other words that help you understand what the word means, okay? So, since the meaning is not exactly in the sentence, you're going to have to do what a sleuth does, a person that solves the mystery. You're going to look at the clues and you're going to figure out the meaning. What I want you to do is underline the clues that help you figure out the meaning. I'm not asking for you to underline the word. That's already underlined. I'm asking you to circle the clues so we can be a sleuth and find the clues. Number one, many creatures or animals live in the rainforest. Okay, so the word that they want you to look at is the word creatures. Okay, now there are a couple of words in this sentence that can help me. Many creatures or animals. I see already a definition. What would you circle to tell you the definition of creatures? You would circle the words or animals. That's a clue. Okay. Number two, big flocks or groups of birds dive through the sky. Okay, so I'm not sure what the word flocks mean. Where have you heard the word flocks before? A flock of birds? A flock of sheep? Okay. What would that mean? Do you see a definition here? Big flocks or groups of birds dive through the sky. I see a definition. Circle the word or groups. I want you to do the same thing for 3 through 6. Number 3, you're trying to find the meaning of the word mammals. Go ahead and circle what you think. Number 4, you're trying to find the meaning of the word flutter. Number 5, you're trying to find the meaning of the word amphibians. And number 6, you're trying to find the word of enormous. Now look through your paper and circle what you think would be a clue to find the meaning. Okay, you don't want to circle the underlined words. These are the words that you're looking for the meaning. Okay, number 3. Mammals, like tigers and monkeys, climb on high branches. What did you circle for the meaning of mammals? Like tigers and monkeys. Very good. Do you know already what a mammal is? What is a mammal? It's a group of animals that have what? A backbone. Many have fur. Drink milk, right? Okay, those are mammals. So you would circle like tigers and monkeys. Number 4, bright blue butterflies flutter or fly between tall trees. What would you circle for the clue for flutter? Or fly. Very good. Number 5, tiny amphibians, such as frogs, hide in the leaves. Such as frogs. Very good. And number 6, enormous snakes can be 30 feet long. Look carefully for this one. What's the clue that tells you what an enormous snake is? Is it short, long, big, small, big? Okay. The clue would be 30 feet long. Enormous means very big. Okay. Enormous. Now, if you have printed out the second page today, it's on 435. This gives you some practice to figure out what the meaning of the word is. Now, look for some homework this week that's going to have context clue practice. You'll see a quiz like you've been doing where you get to choose a multiple choice answer. So let's practice this together. Look at page 435. Read the sentences below and then answer the questions. Number 1, big and small nocturnal animals only come out at night. Big and small, nocturnal. If you've never heard of the word nocturnal, what would that mean? Big and small nocturnal animals only come out at night. There's a clue. Do you see it? What do nocturnal animals do? Is it A, stay asleep all the time? B, come out when it gets dark? C, stay inside all the time? D, come out only during the day? What does it say? Nocturnal animals only come out at night. So which one would you choose? B, they come out at the dark, at night. Very good. B. Number 2, which word helped you know what nocturnal means? A, animals only. B, big and small. C, only come out at night. Or D, small nocturnal. Which one helped you figure out the meaning of nocturnal? Only come out at night. So you would mark number C. Very good. Very good. Okay. The next words have to do with a word we've been talking about with science. You know how we've been talking about animals, adaptations in plants and animals? Okay. We talked about predators and prey. Do you remember prey? Okay, let's see if we can answer together. Wildcats hunt for prey or food after dark. What does the word prey mean? Wildcats hunt for prey or food after dark. There's a definition for you. Okay. What would the definition be? Food for an animal. Let's see if anything matches. Number A. Could prey mean where wildcats live? No, that would be their home or their location. B, where the wildcats sleep. C, what wildcats look like. Prey? No. Or D, what wildcats eat. Let's see, it says wildcats hunt for prey or food after dark. So that would have to be D, what they eat. Good. Number 4, which was the best meaning of the word prey? It says, which word helps you know what the word prey means? Was it A, cats, B, food, C, dark, or D, wild? What would prey mean? B, food. Very good. Okay. I enjoyed looking at some of your presentations on your science lesson. Some of you did a great job explaining your adaptation. You chose a desert plant or a desert animal, and you wrote about it. You answered the questions that Miss Gaylord had put there. If you did not do it, make sure you get it in. You surely don't want to get a 0 on that, okay? Very good. Okay, so let's wrap it up. What is a context clue? What is a context clue? Something that can help you figure out the meaning of something, the mystery, right? What is the definition of a word? What the word means. Good, okay? An example of something would be when they tell you, like in the one about the amphibians, tiny amphibians such as frogs hide in the leaves. That's giving you an example of something. So context clues can be found using several ways. Don't forget to look for the Google form that has the context clue practice on that, okay? Very good. All right. You just finished your ELA skill for the day. You have a hamburger, and so you have a piece of pizza. Would you like some fries with that? You got 3 stars so far. Okay, let's jump into science quickly. Now, we've been talking about science, animals, adaptations. We just talked about different things. If you look on your Google Classroom, Ms. Gaylord has put for next week 2 things that are called materials. Okay, if you click on it, it says, watch the video to complete this week's lesson. Then there's a book also that you can watch. It's a YouTube video and read along. You're going to need these to complete the science assignment for the week. The video is about 4 minutes. It's called Don't Be Afraid of Spiders. And then the book that you're going to use this week is called Diary of a Spider. It's another video. You can see they read the book to you, and it's about 6 minutes. Now, after you watch those videos today, there's a quiz, okay? There's a quiz, let's see, called, has to do with the book, Diary of a Spider, okay? So make sure that you are doing that. That's the assignment for today. We're going to talk about spider parts this week because we are finishing up our book in reading called Charlotte's Web, okay, which is where we are right now. So don't forget to look through that, okay? All right, let's see what else I can give you for that. How about a hot dog for looking at your science things? How about a hot dog? You like a hot dog? I like a hot dog. All right, if you have your book, locate your Charlotte's Web. If not, you can look at your PDF that I sent you, or you can listen, and I hope that you'll be able to find the answers. Now, don't forget to complete the quizzes on Charlotte's Web that are also listed in your Google Classroom. Now, last week, Fern's mom was concerned about Fern. Where did she go? She went to see Fern's doctor, Dr. Dorian, and she said, I'm not sure about this. She said, Fern talks to who? The animals. Fern talks to the animals, and she listens, and she says that the animals can talk. Okay, so is that normally what the doctor would hear about a patient? No. Fern's mom was concerned that she listens to these animals talk, and she thinks that Fern has a wild imagination and that she's making this up. Okay. And so as we left off, Charlotte was writing last week her third word. Do you remember the first word she wrote in the web? Some pig. What's the second word she wrote? Terrific. And then Templeton found her a clipping for her to write the third word, radiant. Now, this week, as we look at our parts, think about how magnificent a spider is. That's what we're going to focus on in science. Did you catch from the book some of the parts of a spider that enable it to make a web? What does a spider have that makes it spin those beautiful webs? Okay, well, we know that the spider has how many legs? 8. A spider also has leg parts to the legs. They're made in little parts. They're not just one leg. It has sections and a spider also has a set of these. These are important to spin a web. Do you know what they said it's called? Spinnerets. Spinnerets. When you watch the video, did you think it was funny that spiders have how many of these? 8. Not only 8 legs, but 8 eyes. Watch the video, and I want you to look at the eyes of the spider as well and learn something. Also, pay attention to the types of webs and what gets caught in the webs. Why is the spider's web sticky? So that it can attract the flies and the insects that fly in. That's going to be important to you as well. If you've got your book now, we're on page 113, The Crickets. The crickets sang in the grasses. They sang the song of summer's ending, a sad, monotonous song. Okay. Now, you probably haven't heard the word monotonous. Now, that means over and over and over. You hear it. They sang out. Now, when we hear crickets sing, we don't hear words, but the crickets in this story had words. Instead of just the chirping of the crickets, the words were, summer is over and gone. Over and gone, over and gone. Summer is dying, it's dying. That's what their words were singing. The crickets felt it was their duty to warn everybody that summertime cannot last forever. Even on that most beautiful day the whole year, when the days are changing into fall, the crickets spread the rumor of sadness and change. Everybody heard the song of the crickets. Now, what time of year is it? It's almost fall. Summer is over. Remember, when was Wilbur born? In the spring. He was a spring pig. So now Wilbur is getting older and older. And remember the plan that Mr. Zuckerman had with Wilbur in the beginning? He was only supposed to live till about Christmas. Avery and Fern Arable heard the song of the crickets, as they walked the dusty road. They knew that school would soon begin again. The young geese heard it, and they knew they would never be little goslings again. Charlotte heard it and knew she had not much time left. Mrs. Zuckerman at work in the kitchen heard the crickets, and a sadness came over her too. Another summer gone, she sighed. Lurvy, at work building a crate for Wilbur, heard the song and he knew that it was time to dig the potatoes. Summer is over and gone, repeated the crickets. How many nights till frost, said the crickets. Goodbye, summer. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Another example of what? Repetition. The sheep heard the crickets and they felt so uneasy they broke a hole in the pasture fence and they wandered up into the field across the road. The gander, remember the boy goose, discovered the hole and led his family through, and they walked to the orchard and they ate apples. Now, if you don't know what the word orchard is, can you look at the context clues and find out? They went to the orchard and ate apples. An orchard is a place where apples or fruit grow. An orchard is where fruit grows on trees that were lying on the ground. A little maple tree in the swamp heard the cricket song and turned bright red with anxiety. Now, it's been a while since I've asked you this, but what kind of figurative language is that? The little maple tree turned bright red. What is it called when things that are not alive take on the qualities of a person? Big word. Personification. The little maple tree turned red like we do when we're anxious. Okay, that's a good example. Very good. Wilbur was now the center of attraction on the farm. Good food and regular hours were showing results. Wilbur was a pig that any man would be proud of. One day, more than 100 people came to stand at his yard and admire him. Charlotte had written that word, radiant, and Wilbur looked really radiant as he stood in the golden sunlight. Ever since the spider had befriended him, he had done his best to live up to his reputation. Your reputation is what others think about you. When Charlotte's Web said some pig, Wilbur had tried hard to look like some pig. When Charlotte's Web said terrific, Wilbur tried to look terrific. And now that the web said radiant, he did everything possible to make himself glow. It is not easy to look radiant, but Wilbur threw himself into it with a will. Means he worked hard. He would turn his head slightly, and he'd blink his long eyelashes. Then he would breathe deeply. And when his audience grew bored, he would spring into the air and do a backflip with a half twist. At this, the crowd would yell out. "How's that for a pig?" said Zuckerman. He would ask, well pleased with himself. He said, "That pig is radiant." Some of Wilbur's friends in the barn worried for fear that all this attention would go to his head and make him stuck up, like he's better than everybody else. But it never did. You know Wilbur. Wilbur was modest. Fame did not spoil him. If you don't know the word modest, look around the words. It says fame did not spoil him, which means he did not think too highly of himself. He still worried, though, about the future. So as he could hardly believe that a mere spider would be able to save his life, sometimes at night Wilbur would have a bad dream. He would dream that men were coming to get him with knives and guns. But that was only a dream. In the daytime, Wilbur usually felt happy and confident. No pig had ever had truer friends, and he realized that friendship is one of the most satisfying things in the world. Even the song of the crickets did not make Wilbur too sad. He knew that it was almost time for the county fair, and he was looking forward to the trip. If he could distinguish himself at the fair or make himself stand out, maybe he could win some prize money. He was sure that Zuckerman would let him live. So now we have a clue to what Wilbur's thought is. Okay, he thinks if I can just stand out at the fair, maybe I can live. Charlotte, though, had worries of her own, but she kept quiet about them. One morning, Wilbur asked her about the fair. "You are going with me, aren't you, Charlotte?" he said. "Well, I don't know," said Charlotte. The fair comes at a bad time for me. I shall find it inconvenient to leave home, even for just a few days. What do you think the word inconvenient means? Okay. The prefix in means not. So if it's not convenient, it's really not going to be, she's not going to be able to do it. Well, why? Said Wilbur. Oh, said Charlotte, I just don't feel like leaving my web. Too much going on around here. Please come with me, begged Wilbur. I need you, Charlotte. I can't stand going to the fair without you. You just got to come. Now, the fair, guys, back then would have been several days of fun for the people in the county. There wasn't a lot to do back then. So they would have a fair where you could come ride rides and get food. And then they'd have contests like who's the biggest, best pig or who has the nicest horse. That's what they would do at the fair. And Wilbur says, you've just got to come. You've just got to come. No, said Charlotte, I believe that I better stay home and see if I can get some work done. Well, what kind of work? Asked Wilbur. Egg laying, she said. It's time that I made my egg sack and filled it with eggs. I didn't know you could lay eggs, said Wilbur in amazement. Oh, sure, said the spider. I am versatile. Well, what does versatile mean? Said Wilbur. Full of eggs? Certainly not, said Charlotte. Versatile means I can work with ease from one thing to another. It means I don't have to limit my activities to spinning and trapping and stunts like that. So versatile means you can do one thing and then you can do something else. Like she can weave a web that says radiant, but she can also lay eggs. Well, why don't you come with me, said Wilbur, to the fairgrounds and lay your eggs there, pleaded Wilbur. It will be wonderful fun. Charlotte gave her web a twitch, and moodily she watched it sway, and she said, I'm afraid not. You don't know the first thing about egg laying, Wilbur. I cannot arrange my family duties to suit the management of the county fair. When I get ready to lay my eggs, I have to lay the eggs, fair or no fair. However, I don't want you to worry about it, Wilbur. She said you might lose weight. We'll leave it this way. I will come to the fair if I possibly can. Oh, good, said Wilbur. I knew you wouldn't forsake me just when I need you most. All that day, Wilbur stayed inside, taking life easy in the straw. Charlotte rested and ate a grasshopper. She knew that she could not help Wilbur much longer. In a few days, she was going to have to drop everything and build that beautiful little sack that would hold her eggs. Okay, off to the fair. The night before the county fair, everybody went to bed early. Fern and Avery were in bed by 8. Avery lay dreaming of that Ferris wheel, and it had stopped, and he was in the top of the car, and Fern lay dreaming that she was getting sick in the swings. Lurvy was in bed by 8:30. He lay dreaming that he was throwing baseballs at a cloth cat and winning a genuine Navajo blanket. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were all in bed by 9. Mrs. Zuckerman lay dreaming about a deep freeze unit. Okay, that would be a freezer to store her food in. Mr. Zuckerman lay dreaming about Wilbur. He dreamt that Wilbur had grown until he was 116 feet long, 92 feet high, and that he had won all the prizes at the fair. There's his dream, how big Wilbur is. And that he was covered with all the blue ribbons, and he even had a blue ribbon tied to the end of his tail. Down in the barn cellar, the animals, too, were all up early. They all went to sleep early, except for Charlotte. Tomorrow would be the fair day. Every creature planned to get up early and see Wilbur off on his great adventure. Now, did the other animals get to go to the fair? No, because Wilbur's going for what reason? He is going to make sure that he can he's going to be in a contest for the best pig. Now, it says the animals got up early to see him off. When the morning came, everybody got up at daylight. The day was hot. Up the road at the Arable's house, Fern lugged a pail of hot water to her mom and took a sponge bath. Then she put on the prettiest dress she had because she knew she would see boys at the fair. Mrs. Arable scrubbed the back of Avery's neck wet his hair, and parted it, and brushed it down hard until it stuck to the top of his head, all but about 6 hairs that stood straight up. Avery put on clean underwear, clean blue jeans, and a clean shirt. Mr. Arable dressed, ate breakfast, and then went out and polished his truck. He had offered to drive everybody to the fair, including Wilbur. Bright and early, Lurvy put some clean straw in Wilbur's crate, lifted up the pig pen. Remember, he'd worked on the crate? It was green, and it had gold letters, and it said, Zuckerman's Famous Pig. Charlotte had her web looking fine for the occasion. Wilbur ate his breakfast slowly. He tried to look radiant without getting any food in his ears. In the kitchen, Mrs. Zuckerman suddenly made an announcement. Homer, she said to her husband, I'm going to give that pig a buttermilk bath. Buttermilk bath? What? Said Mr. Zuckerman. A buttermilk bath, she said. My grandmother used to bathe her pig with buttermilk when it got dirty, and I just remembered. Wilbur's not dirty, said Mr. Zuckerman proudly. He is. He's filthy behind the ears. Every time Lurvy slops him, that food runs down behind his ears, and it dries and it forms a crust. He also has a smudge on the side where he lays down in the manure. He lays in clean straw, said Mr. Zuckerman. Well, he is dirty, she said. Now I'm going to give him a bath. What was she going to use? Buttermilk. Mr. Zuckerman sat down weakly and ate a donut. His wife went to the woodshed. When she returned, she wore her rubber boots and her old raincoat, and she carried a bucket of buttermilk and a small wooden paddle. Edith, he said to his wife, you're crazy. But she paid no attention to him. Together they walked to the pig pen. Mrs. Zuckerman wasted no time. She climbed in with Wilbur, went to work. Dipping her paddle in the buttermilk, she rubbed him all over. The geese gathered around to see the fun, and so did the sheep and the lambs. Even Templeton poked his head out cautiously to watch Wilbur get that buttermilk bath. Charlotte was got so interested, she lowered herself on a drag line so she could even see better. Wilbur stood still and closed his eyes. He could feel the buttermilk trickling down his sides. He opened his mouth, and some of the buttermilk ran in. It was delicious. He felt radiant and happy. And when Mrs. Zuckerman got through and rubbed him dry, he was the cleanest, prettiest pig you ever saw. He was pure white, pink all around the ears, and his snout smooth as silk. The Zuckermans went to change into their best clothes. They're getting ready to go to the fair. Lurvy went to shave and put on his plaid shirt and his purple necktie. The animals were left to themselves in the barn. Now, why would the Zuckermans go put on their best clothes to go to the fair? Because Wilbur's going to be in a contest, right? And they want to look their best. The 7 goslings paraded around and around their mother. Please, please, please take us to the fair, begged the gosling. And all 7 of them begged to go. Please, 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 they said, and they made a queer racket. Children, snapped the goose, we're staying quietly, idly at home. Only Wilbur is going to the fair. And just then, Charlotte interrupted. And she said softly, I shall go too. I've decided to go with Wilbur. He may need me. We cannot tell what will happen at the fairgrounds. Somebody's got to go who knows how to write. And I think that Templeton better come too. I might need somebody to run errands and do my general work. I'm staying right here, grumbled the rat. I haven't the slightest interest in fairs. That's because you've never been to one, remarked the old sheep. A fair is a rat's paradise, she said. Everybody spills food at a fair. A rat can creep out late at night and have a feast. In the horse barn, you'll find oats that the trotters and pacers have spilled. In the trampled grass of the infield, you'll find old discarded lunch boxes, which means thrown away, containing the foul remains of peanut butter sandwiches, hard-boiled eggs, cracker crumbs, bits of donuts, particles of cheese. In the hard-packed dirt of the midway, after the glaring lights are out, you'll find that people have gone home to bed, and you'll find a veritable treasure of popcorn fragments. Frozen custard dribblings, candied apples abandoned by tired children. You'll find sugar fluff crystals, salted almonds, popsicles, partially gnawed ice cream cones, and the wood sticks of lollipops. Everywhere is loot for a rat. Now, what if you don't know what the word loot means? Loot for a rat, okay? All the prizes, good things that a rat would want, good things, loot. In tents, in booths, on haylofts. Why, a fair has enough disgusting leftover food to satisfy a whole army of rats, said the sheep. Templeton's eyes were now blazing. Is this true? He asked. Is this appetizing yarn of yours, is it true? I like high living, and I like what you say. It tempts me. It is true, said the old sheep. Go to the fair, Templeton. You will find that the conditions at a fair will surpass your wildest dreams. Buckets with sour mash sticking to them, tin cans containing particles of tuna, fish, greasy paper bags stuffed with rotten. Oh, that's enough, said Templeton. Don't tell me any more. I'm going. Good, said Charlotte, winking at the old sheep. Which animal convinced Templeton to go to the fair? The sheep. Good. Now then, she said, there's no time to lose. Wilbur will soon be put into the crate. Templeton and I must get in the crate now and hide ourselves. The rat did not waste a minute. He scampered over to the crate, crawled between the slats, and pulled up the straw over him so he was hidden from sight. All right, said Charlotte, I'm next. She sailed into the air, let out a drag line, and dropped gently to the ground. And then she climbed inside the crate, and she hid herself in a knothole in the top of the board. So how many animals are now in the crate? Just Templeton's already in, and Charlotte. They're just waiting for who? Wilbur. Wow, the old sheep nodded and said, what a cargo. The sign ought to say Suckerman's famous pig and 2 stowaways. Do you know what a stowaway is? Okay, someone who climbs in to something like a ship or something and doesn't tell anybody they're there. Look out, the people are coming, umming, shouted the gander. Cheese it, cheese it, cheese it. The big truck with Mr. Arable at the wheel backed slowly down the barnyard road. Lurvy and Mr. Zuckerman walked alongside, and Fern and Avery were standing in the body of the truck, hanging onto the sideboards. Listen to me, whispered the old sheep to Wilbur. When they open the crate and they try to put you in, struggle. Don't you go without a tussle. Pigs always resist when they're being loaded. If I struggle, I'll get dirty, said Wilbur. Never mind that. You do as I say. You struggle. If you were to walk to that crate without resisting, Zuckerman might think that you were bewitched. Okay, that you were a little crazy. He'd be scared to go to the fair. Templeton poked his head up through the straw. He said, struggle if you must, but kindly remember that I'm hiding down here in this crate, and I don't want to be stepped on, or kicked in the face, or pummeled, which means hit, or crushed in any way, or squashed, or buffeted about, or bruised, or lacerated, or scarred, or biffed. Just watch what you're doing, Mr. Radiant, he said to Wilbur. When they get shoving you in, be quiet, said the sheep to Templeton. Pull in your head. They're coming. Now look radiant, Wilbur. Lay low, Charlotte. Talk it up, geese. The truck backed slowly to the pig pen and stopped. Mr. Arable cut the motor, got out, walked around to the rear, and lowered the tailgate. The geese cheered. Mrs. Arable got out of the truck. Fern and Avery jumped to the ground, and Mrs. Zuckerman came walking down from the house. Everybody lined up at the fence and stood for a moment admiring Wilbur and that beautiful new green crate. Nobody realized that inside the crate it already contained a rat and a spider. That is some pig, said Mrs. Arable. He's terrific, said Fern. He's very radiant, said Lurvy, remembering the day he was born. Said Fern. Well, said Mrs. Zuckerman, he's clean anyway. That buttermilk cream certainly helped. Mr. Arable studied Wilbur carefully. Yes, he is a wonderful pig, he said. It's hard to believe that he was just the runt of the litter. The runt is what? The smallest one. You'll get some good, extra good ham and bacon, Homer, when it comes time to kill that pig. Wilbur heard these words, and his heart stopped. I think I'm going to faint, he whispered to the old sheep who was watching. Kneel down, said the old sheep. Just kneel down and let the blood rush to your head. Wilbur sank to his knees, all of his radiance gone, his eyes closed. Look, screamed Fern, he's fading away. Hey, watch me, yelled Avery, crawling on all fours into the crate. I'm a pig, I'm a pig. And Avery's foot touched Templeton under the straw. What a mess, thought the rat. What a fantastic creature boys are. Why did I let myself in for this? The geese saw Avery in the crate and cheered. Avery, his mother said, you get out of that crate this instant, commanded his mother. What do you think you are? I'm a pig, cried Avery, tossing handfuls of straw in the air. Oink, 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 oink. The truck is rolling away, Papa, said Fern, and the truck, with no one at the wheel, had started to roll downhill. Mr. Arable dashed into the driver's seat, pulled on the emergency brake, and the truck stopped. The geese cheered, and Charlotte crouched, made herself as small as possible in that knothole so that Avery would not see her. Come out at once, said Mrs. Arable to Avery, and Avery crawled out of the crate on his hands and knees, making faces at Wilbur, and Wilbur fainted away. The pig has passed out, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Throw water on him. Throw buttermilk, suggested Avery, and the geese cheered. Lurvy ran for a pail of water, and Fern climbed into the pen and knelt beside Wilbur's side. It's a sunstroke, said Zuckerman. The heat is too much for him. Well, maybe he's dead, said Avery. Come out of that pig pen immediately, cried Mrs. Arable. And Avery obeyed his mother and climbed into the back of the truck so he could see better. Lurvy returned with some cold water and dashed it on Wilbur. Throw some on me, cried Avery. I'm hot too. Oh, keep quiet, replied Fern. Keep quiet. And her eyes were now brimming with tears. Wilbur, feeling the cold water, came too. He rose slowly to his feet, and the geese cheered. See? He's up, said Mr. Arable. I guess there's nothing wrong with him. I'm hungry, said Avery. I want a candied apple. Well, Wilbur's all right now, said Fern. We can start. I want to take a ride on the Ferris wheel. Mr. Zuckerman and Mr. Arable and Lurvy grabbed the pig and pushed him head first toward the crate. Wilbur began to struggle. The harder the men pushed, the harder he held back. Avery jumped up and joined the men. Wilbur kicked and thrashed and grunted. Nothing's wrong with this pig, said Mr. Zuckerman. Cheerfully, he pressed his knee against Wilbur's backside, and all together now he said, shove, boys. With a final heave, they jammed him into the crate, and the geese cheered. Lurvy nailed some boards across the end so Wilbur would not back out. Then, using all their strength, the men picked up their crate, heaved it aboard the truck. They did not know that under that straw was a rat. Inside the knothole was a big gray spider, and they only saw the pig, but there were really 3 animals in there. Everybody's in, crawled Mr. Arable. He started the motor, and the ladies climbed in beside him. Mr. Zuckerman and Lurvy and Fern and Avery rode in the back, hanging onto the sideboards. The truck began to move ahead. The geese cheered, and the children answered their cheer, and away everybody went off to the fair. Very good. Okay, now, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll finish that book. Look for the quizzes that you have to take after reading the books, okay? The book chapters. And I hope that you are keeping up. If you need to look something up, you can always go back to the book or go to the PDF that I sent you to your parents' address, okay? Thank you for doing a great job today. And the last thing you get today would be something. Let's see if we can get our 5th one. You can get 2 for the last star. The last star can be a donut and an ice cream. Very good. You get 2. You did a great job today. Thank you for listening very well. Don't forget to make sure you write down your Riggs words, do your math, do your reading homework, and work on the science project, which is on spiders this week, okay? Well, thank you for listening carefully, and Miss Gaylord will see you tomorrow. Take care, and don't forget to do your other lessons. You have your PE, art, Spanish. You have your math with Miss Neckley, and any of the other things that you were assigned, okay? All right, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.